Well, I'm super grateful to have you here.
I'm really excited. I was excited to see what you were talking about in your new project, and I think it's great. I can see how that could be really beneficial. I feel like I could absolutely use like a lift every so often. You know, that I just like, I'm starting to realize that I kind of ebb and flow, and sometimes I'm just on, and then sometimes I just kind of start to crash. And if I could have some place to turn when I start to crash, that would be really beneficial. It kind of sounds like what you're talking about, you know.
Well, there's two pieces to that, because one is, yeah, definitely having a place, a container that says, okay, this is a, come into this container during that period.
Yeah.
And really activate that period. Be okay with the fact that it's low, because all of life is oscillation, is moving. That's what defines life, is motion between states.
Right.
So some of them are inherently going to be less than, and those can be super restorative times.
Yeah.
That they can't be restorative if we're beating ourselves up for having them.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? Which all of us do. But should we start with a little meditation?
That would be so lovely.
Okay. Great. Let's do it then. Closing our eyes. Breathing deeply into our bodies, into our hips, into our legs, and down into the ground. This earth that is quite literally our mother. All of our components are earth stuff. And as we activate this earth organism with the life force energy, we give ourselves an opportunity to engage with the world through this body. This body that has evolved to know what thriving is. This body that has evolved to carry within it all the information necessary to experience and express on this planet at this time. As we relax on our exhalations, we begin to create a relationship of trust with the body, with the earth, knowing that being here together, being in a resonant field with others who are in their bodies, bringing their miraculous gifts to life through these bodies, we can feel the support that we receive and that we so enjoy giving to each other. And operating from that space of co-resonance and co-creative intention, let us provide that fertile soil for ourselves and each other through this process.
That was really lovely, Leela. So we're so excited to have our very own Leela in the spotlight. How wonderful. And I'm just thinking, for people who may watch this, who haven't met you yet, whether you could tell us a bit about you and then tell us about the bodyfulness and getting out of our heads.
Great. That's what I'll do. My name is Lisa Johnson. I go by Leela for a variety of reasons. And I'm lucky enough to be Jan's power partner. So have watched Synergy since its very first, hey, I have this idea for a big give. And all of the magic that has sprung forth from that big give of Jan's. And we got together through the feminine power process with Claire Zammit, which we still use all the time and love very much. And I think actually too, the power process has really informed this whole practice. So I have been learning through chronic illness for about a decade. And I've had a lot of ups and downs, as everybody with these kinds of concerns do. But through the process of it, through my resistance to things and my eventual adoption of things and how these processes go, there have been a lot of very wonderful influences. But what I have found the most impactful has been this path of embodiment. I've always been kind of a concept person. I love good concepts and I love exploring them and reading them, and I like fill my mind with these concepts all the time. And as I began practices to really get me present into my body, what I was realizing was that those concepts started to take hold in my body and in my life experience. And that was remarkable because I thought it was like, oh, I'm going to reach a certain amount of knowledge, at which point the light switch will flick. And finally, the elements of my life will realize that we've reached this high point of knowledge and just get on with being perfect for finally sake. And yeah, so that never works. And it was hugely surprising to me, the depth and breadth of the gifts of the body and embodying. Now, a lot of people with chronic illness, especially if it's a pain-based illness, will do their very best to be out of their bodies as often as possible because the body's simply too painful to want to experience full on. And I remember the first time I left my body, I was actually in second grade and I was super bored and there were a lot of things going on. And I realized I could just go off into my imagination. Actually, I think I went off into my imagination, was totally outside of the room, and then was called back by something. And I was like, oh, I can do that? I can go and be in my imagination, which is so much richer and more interesting than this little hovel that, and I don't think I went back in until I was like 45. So as much as possible, I stayed in an imaginal realm. I absolutely valued the imaginal over the physical. I kind of felt that the physical was an impediment to enlightenment. It was an impediment to, spirituality in general. It was base and it shouldn't be trusted. And, all of these, like the body was just a pain in my ass. I would go and do yoga though, right? But now looking back at it, I was doing yoga for the ego stroke. Like I loved certain postures and being able to do them really well. And, I was doing it to the best of my ability, but coming into this bodyfulness in the last couple of years. So I was diagnosed with chronic illness 10 years ago, maybe 12, 11 at this point. But, and not too long into it, I decided, because allopathic medicine has nothing for a lot of chronic autoimmune diseases, that my body would be my teacher. And that decision was enormous for me. I took my trust out of a medical professional and into my body to lead the way. And then I proceeded to try to find every single solitary possible cure and then test it on my body. Okay, is this what I need? Oh, is this what I need? Oh, is this what I need? And I did that for years. And then I lost a filling. In the shower one day, a filling popped out, and I swished with coconut oil because that was one of the many internet written potential miracle cures that I had tried a couple years prior. And it, didn't have an impact. But when I was in the shower and I lost that filling, I was like, oh my gosh, I can swish with coconut oil. And as I did, 70% of the disease left my body in the course of swishing with that coconut oil for 25 minutes. And so that was a real healing event. And what I realized was, wow, I have just spent all of this time and effort, like years of cooking 3 meals a day with no energy at all and all these protocols. And then here in 1 minute, something completely I never could have guessed just came and changed my life entirely. And so the relationship between effort and grace really took over my contemplations. And we took a big trip because I was like, who knows how long this will last? One of the things about illness too is always this, am I always going to be sick? Is it going to get worse? What is it? Like there's this constant conversation about the now and the future. And the future is really what creates the most stress, I think, for me at least. But anyway, so since I had this healing event, we took this marvelous trip, and my health has stayed stable through all of this, which is not healthy. I'm not like a picture of health, but it's very manageable. So when we got back from the trip, we were very tired, as you can imagine. And so I started focusing my attention on the feeling state of my body as often as I could, and developed a series of cues that I would get to have myself do it more often. Because what I recognized is that I carry an enormous amount of unnecessary tension in my body all the time. And if I pay attention to it, I can relax it. And it doesn't take 10 seconds for it to get its hold on me. And so I try to have a cue very quickly after so that I can go back again and again and again into a state where I'm focusing my attention on the feeling state of my body, and to the degree that I can, relaxing it or releasing resistance to relaxation. And that was when that started happening, when I started doing that, that's when these concepts started forming into lifestyle, out of ideas of what life could be like into, oh wow, that's actually happening around me now. So, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna talk about slowing down and the benefits of slowing down and getting in. And nobody wants to talk about slowing down. Nobody, I mean, everybody knows that they kind of need to do it. But nobody wants to do it. There's nothing appealing about slowing down. It has huge impediments. And when my doctor told me I needed to slow down, I didn't even know what he meant. 12 years ago, I had no idea what he meant. And even if I knew what he meant, I didn't even want to deal with it, because slowing down is not sexy. It's not interesting. It's not fun. It doesn't seem productive. It doesn't seem expansive or any of the things that I valued. But I've been talking about it for like a year and a half. Slowing down, the benefits of slowing down. And in February, I did a talk about slowing down for an alternative medical group here in California. And they were like, can you call it anything else? And so I was describing it to the guy or to the woman, and she said, she's like, well, how about we just call it mindfulness? And I'm like, no, because it's really body focused. So let's call it bodyfulness. And as soon as that happened, 20 ideas kind of clicked into place of bodyfulness. Nobody has a preconceived notion that bodyfulness is a big drag, as opposed to the slowing down. And this concept of being in our bodies and putting our feeling state as the focus of our attention it creates a different relationship with the body. One of the pieces that I feel about it, well, anyway, so I did this talk about bodyfulness, and it kind of exploded. And when I actually wrote the description, all of this came into play. And what the description said was that bodyfulness focuses on three principles. The first principle is that our bodies are our teachers. Our body has more access to more knowledge about our lives and our expression than any other source. And like any teacher, if we pay attention to it, it will teach us well. And if we don't pay attention to it and think we know more than it, we will get very little out of it. So our body being our teacher, and just that possibility that the body holds everything we need it to hold, is the first principle. The second principle is that everybody is different and that everybody is equal. A different mix, but we are all, we all know this stuff. We all know all of the things we enjoy learning from each other, but it's the learning from each other that creates the dynamic diversity that allows us to create big things. And so, but in order to do that, there's a self-respect. Our body is different. So if I lead somebody through a meditation that's uncomfortable for them, listen to yourself. Don't listen to me. I'm just giving a cue, right? So honoring our bodies. And if things work for other people, oh, that's interesting. And it might inform how we go about our encounter with our own body. But the relationship between our body is that intimate and that personal that it's going to be different, not just between ourselves and our body, but every time we connect with our body, there's going to be a difference. Can't walk in the same river twice. The third principle is that healing happens in relationship. And our first and most primary relationship is the relationship we have with our body. And I believe that as we tend to, and my experience is that as we tend to our bodies and release resistance in our bodies, it impacts every other relationship we have, both the interpersonal relationships and the conceptual relationships. And that has been miraculous. And that as we set about on a journey of focusing our attention inwards at any point during the day, that we need relationship. We need like-minded people. We need the support system. We are not individual beings. We're part of a species that is very socially oriented. And so, okay, how can I put this together? So this is kind of funny because it's hugely embarrassing, but it's true. I have the Bodyfulness Udemy course all written, all done, all waiting to do. And I've been waiting for a decent hair day to do it. And it's been like 2 months. So finally I was like, I'm going to go get a haircut and then I'll have a good hair day. But it's a little short and I can't quite push behind my ears and various things. So that the Udemy course is going to come as my hair begins to cooperate. My hair will let me know when I can shoot it. But that's just one piece of this Bodyfulness program. So the other and primary piece is a shared practice. So I have developed, I don't know, probably 100 different cues to remind myself, oh, look, red light. Time for me to take a deep breath and point my attention inward. Oh, hey, look, a green door. Time for me to take a deep breath and point my attention inward. All of these different pieces. Some are based on places where we're already still, and some are based on cues in nature or the manifest world, and some are based internally, internal rhythms. And so I am hosting daily, 3 times a day, Bodyfulness practice, where it's drop-in, so you can come at any point during the hour. If you come for the whole hour or 5 minutes here or 10 minutes in the middle or just the last 5 minutes, anytime somebody comes, we'll reintroduce cueing into bodyfulness, because the whole practice is about the feeling state of our body having the focus of our attention. Because, of course, those things that we focus our attention on thrive. When we put our care and attention towards something, that something thrives. And so we're putting our care and attention on our body and allowing it to thrive in whatever way it defines, which sometimes is a little difficult at first and sometimes has no difficulty at all. Every journey's slightly different. Every day is slightly different. But so there's a guided cueing towards the focus of our attention being the feeling state of our bodies, and then kind of some conceptual stuff in between. So while we're sitting there kind of setting up the understanding that the body is wise, and that when we give the body the keys, the body can start to implement those things that it knows. But as long as we have the keys, telling the body, oh yeah, I'm just going to try this one more thing, you're going to love it. And the body's just sitting there with all the answers like, okay. Infinitely patient, infinitely allowing the mind to do the things it needs to do. But the one thing that I want to express about this bodyfulness practice is that it gives me extremely clear answers all the time. And I never expected that, and I really didn't believe it was possible. But my body is not entranced by my mental wanderings the way my mind is, or the musings, or the comparisons, or the scorecard, or the problems with the world. My body has absolutely no interest in any of that. It will endure my interest, but as I put my attention on the feeling state of my body and ask it any question, well, the only way I can describe it right now is my body feels complete. My body feels like a complete unit. And when my mind says, oh, here's some incomplete thing, and I'm pretty sure that it needs that and that and that to be complete, and I'm pretty sure if I do these 3 actions, I can get that one. And there's this whole beautiful diagram and flow chart of how the mind is going to take this incomplete state that we're currently in and add these external elements that can be accessed through these hoops and tricks, and then achieve a moment of completeness. And the body's like, already complete. So as you can imagine, once that sensation, once I could access that sensation within my body, all of those hoops didn't feel so interesting anymore. So the mind is always moving from incompletion to the attempt of completion. But the body is always moving from complete to complete to complete. It's engaging in things with full presence. Our minds are rarely engaging in things with full presence. So to my logic, the more we're in our bodies, the more we're complete. And the more we're in our minds, the more we're incomplete, because we're not even integrated within ourselves. So as we integrate within ourselves, we engage with the world with a wholeheartedness that we can't access unless we're fully coming through our body. That's my theory. I've been doing this 3-time-a-day practice for 6 weeks with 20 people that I originally invited. And every one of them, well, of the people who have come regularly, every one of them has said in the last 2 weeks, oh my gosh, I had this experience and I checked in with my body and it was a game changer. Just that knowledge, just that check-in, because I believe the body is so happy to finally be consulted. It gives effusively, although sometimes it takes a minute. because we think we can interpret the body. Oh, this is one last point I wanted to make about it. We think that I'm sorry, I have this habit of wanting my information to come in my native language. And if it doesn't come in my native language, I really don't hear it. And the body doesn't speak in language. The body speaks in experiential states and feeling states. And we can interpret it into language. But at the beginning part, I feel that the people who are trying to interpret the feeling states into language to then have a concept to chew on, that's really circumventing the process. And the more that we can just access that feeling state without trying to assign language to it, it gives what I like to call authentic energy levels. It moves things through authentic energy. And the body is always in motion. The body is always, there are so many processes happening every second in the body that it is managing so many things so expertly. If the mind got involved, we'd be dead in a fraction of a second, you know? And so this wisdom that keeps all of this motion happening, very often we treat it like a workhorse and say, oh, okay, next you have to do this, and next you have to do that. And if you're not quite feeling up to it, I'm going to augment you with coffee or whatever the things are that I need to augment you with so that you do my bidding. And the body's like, wow, my experience is if I follow the body's state and authentic energy, then not only do I not need any stimulants or help to slow down, because once you overactivate a system, then that system's going to have to recover. But we don't really plan for that. We just like it to keep doing what we want it to do. And if we instead, oh, there's a Rumi poem, and I took a picture of it so that I could be led by the guide of your spirit. Move only where that one moves. If you follow something else, you are wounding yourself and the world. And I believe that the body literally moves us authentically, and in my experience, much more strategically than the mind ever does. So this bodyfulness practice is a space to collectively turn our attention into our individual body and to remember the values that make this make sense and help us bring these marvelous ideas we have into the body so that they can be expressed in authentic and powerful ways. And so you're invited to join me any days you want. I'll send, I don't know how to do it. I can send you the email with the time. So it's Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., noon, and 6:30 p.m., all Pacific time. And sometimes I'm there by myself, which is great because I'm doing my practice. And sometimes people come for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or sometimes people come and stay the hour. All of it is acceptable to me. And I have, like, you can come for the last 10 minutes is absolutely great, or 5 minutes in between. Because I love having this formal practice 3 times a day. And what that's doing for me is helping me have informal practice more and more throughout the day. And as I have these practices, things go nicely. Those presence processes with my kids, like to be present when my kids have a problem instead of having a picture that I'm trying to then meet them. Like the mental process was both futile and exhausting. And this embodied process is full of discovery and curiosity and a sense of wellness, a sense of wholeness. And so I just want to offer the opportunity for people to practice that and have a space that it's honored and the truth of it is known, so that it can be experienced, so that it can be shared. And that's it. that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow, Leela, that sounds amazing. I know just on a really personal level, there's a lot there for me to learn. My chopped up life with my migraines and everything, I can imagine there is a lot to start really listening to my body in the way that you're describing, which is so much deeper than just going, oh, I've got a twinge, or, you know, I need to loosen up. Loosen up quickly. It was really lovely when I dropped in and received the warm welcome, and then the beauty of a guided meditation straight away, and then being able to talk for a while. And I just had 10 minutes, and it was literally a really wonderful 10 minutes. So I recommend it to everyone.
No, I'm so glad you did too, because it does really amplify as people engage in it. It's really nice.
So Liz and Grace, do you have any questions or anything you want to add?
Can you give us a sample, Miss Leela? Can you do something, or kind of talk us through one of your...
Absolutely.
Just something that might make it even more clear. I mean, it sounds fabulous.
Well,
I absolutely, totally agree that, and I know we all say we just spend too much time in our head, and that's not where the answers are found, although we think it's where it's going to be. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, what's really wonderful too is, before I do this, so about 2 weeks ago, I found a book called Bodyfulness by a woman she was a professor at Naropa University, a Buddhist insight meditation teacher and somatic counselor. And, but wait, before this, when Rhiannon did a Sunday huddle,
Mm-hmm.
I did the little guided meditation at the beginning, and someone said, "Ooh, Lisa, I hear you use felt sense a lot. Are you a fellow focuser?" And I was like, "No, because I don't know what that means, but I totally want to know." And we never connected back, so I researched it. And focusing is something that developed in the 70s and 80s because these two therapists realized that they could predict with 100% certainty the individuals for whom talk therapy would have the most positive outcomes. And they could teach first-year students how to identify these markers for successful psychotherapy outcomes. And the marker was this: if during the talk therapy session, the patient stopped and went into a feeling state to try to determine if that was the right word or how to describe this feeling, that they were referencing their internal space at some point during the therapy, was enough to mark that this is going to have a successful outcome. That introspection. And they went on to develop focusing. And so I'm going to lead you on a little mini focusing technique. Getting comfortable. Exhaling to relax. Inhaling. Creating a broad space around your hips. And then relaxing your upper musculature into that space. So the inhale, so we'll use the mnemonic for breath. I'm going to take a breath. What am I going to do? My body relaxes on the exhale, and then I expand at the hips on the inhale. And that expansion of the hips goes all the way around. So it's in all directions that inhalation impacts the body. And then that relaxing moves into that hip space. The body drops into that space. The space widens to receive and create a stable foundation. And the relaxing eases into that space to fill it. And noticing the feeling state of the body without wanting to change or heal or transform any of the sensations that you feel. Just noticing what's happening in the body right now. And saying hello. Hello to each sensation. And hello to your body in general. I'm here. And you may notice that you really can't feel anything specific, and that's absolutely fine. And you may notice that what you felt on this exhalation changes in the next exhalation. But our attention is still saying hello. And noticing any sensation that comes up to interact with that attention. And it may be discomfort, and it may be pleasant. But whatever it is, receiving it and relaxing with it. Trying to release any resistance to that feeling. Maintaining that friendly hello through the sensation. And if something is particularly uncomfortable, adjusting, seeing if any micro movements might help us release a little more resistance. But with the intention of serving that feeling, not changing it. Letting the body know that you know you're not entirely fluent yet, but that this kind of attention will be back and ready to be attentive to the body and its needs and its messages. And with that intention and with that establishment of relationship, we can open our eyes as we feel ready and be curious about what may unfold in that space. And that is basically the whole program. That willingness to be, and I have probably 30 or 40 different ways to, especially with pain, how to interact with pain and make space for it.
That felt so very different to meditation, where it's still, the focus is still on the mind, like quiet the mind. And it almost felt as if the mind, by occupying itself with getting familiar with the body, was just gradually quieting. by putting the focus onto those things that you were describing. It's interesting, very interesting.
Well, I've heard it said, and I haven't seen it validated, but in the laboratory of my own experience, that you cannot think and feel at the same time. So as we put our attention on the feeling state of our bodies, it does naturally quiet the mind. And even if the mind has thoughts, because they're not the focus of our attention, our mind is so often the focus of our attention that we believe every thought and we follow every thought and we take every morsel of bread. But when we're noticing, we can't be identifying with additional things. So it is different than meditation, only because it's a body meditation, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I meditated for years, and it was very much a cerebral activity, and it often was a self-punishing cerebral activity because I didn't do it well enough, and I wasn't achieving spiritual prowess, and whatever. It was a decent portion of the time more frustrating than serving. But here's the other piece. Even when our mind is like that, there's a study about a woman who participated in a Harvard meditation study, and she was 12 weeks in, and she had like a terrible day at work. Like she had to fire some, like all of this stuff happens. So she comes in, they attach all of the things. She tries to do her meditation. She totally can't unplug from her stuff. She goes to the people, the scientists, and is like, can we just take today out because it's going to whack out all my numbers? And, I just really don't want to. And they're like, you're right. It is going to whack out all your numbers. This is the deepest you've ever gone. Right? Totally shocked. So anytime we sit, even when we think our minds are all of these, anytime we sit and have our breathing be our primary activity, we move the body from fight or flight into rest and digest, where you're, instead of putting out cortisol and adrenaline, you're having oxytocin and other positive hormones. Like you get more nutrients out of your food. So even if you just sit and you don't focus on your body, or you don't if you're imagining terrible things, you are going to you will stop yourself, because the body can't tell the difference between real and imagined fire, right? The mind can't tell the difference. I'm sorry. The body knows entirely. The body can probably tell you, if we could speak body, the closest fire within 100 miles, like, oh, there's a fire. Like our bodies are intensely sensitive to these things, but we have way too much information coming in. And so our brain has filtered what we're willing to receive.
Yeah.
In any of those moments. Moving into our body and letting it have the microphone about what's happening for a little while shifts our neural pathways about what we are willing to receive. And once we shift it in one direction, we can shift it in all of them. Please.
What was that you were saying the other day about the karaoke?
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the meditations is, our brain is a microphone hog. Our mind is like, always has a microphone, always thinks it's in charge, always thinks it has the best thing to say. And this practice is body karaoke. So wherever in the body needs to have the microphone, receives it, if only for 5 minutes a day, if only for 1 minute a day. And my whole thing is every single breath you take, if you take an inhalation and an exhalation where the focus of your attention was the feeling state of your body, you've benefited not just your physical body, but the relationship between the mental body and the physical body, so that we can really feel as an integrated being. I mean, I just lived in my head for so long, I had no idea what it was like to be in my body. Not everybody needs this, right? A lot of people are fully in their bodies all the time. It was totally new for me.
So Leela, where does spirit play into this?
Well, I believe that spirit is what keeps us from being a corpse, right? So if there's one, like, bodies without spirit become corpses. So my belief is that that which animates us through our bodies.
Mhm.
And that being receptive to that meeting point
Mhm.
between spirit and body is going to be where we will get our purest messages from our spirit, our purest instinct moving us towards what spirit would have. Spirit came into this body to experience and to express. And everything it experiences and everything it expresses is through the body from a de facto point of view. So I believe that our minds are inspired, but there's a line in the Course in Miracles that says, it's Jesus speaking, and he says, God has given to all of us equally. I have nothing that you do not have. The difference between us now is that I have nothing else.
Mm.
And I believe that most of the inhibitors that we have towards fully embodying in spirit are mental constructs that keep the brain busy and out of attendance of spirit. So that that dynamic that the body is the meeting point of spirit and earth. I could go on about this for like hours.
But it sounds like what you're saying is this is a means of getting us out of the head and in touch with spirit again through the body. And we're using that as our kind of vehicle to get back to.
That's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And your individual incarnation, your individual relationship with spirit, what this body, why, all of these things, knowing that we didn't create ourselves, we can't create these bodies, like we don't have that. So like tending to the mystery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's such an individual mystery. So everyone's is going to have their own.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look through.
There's another thing, that I hear a lot is this idea, and I think that's kind of what you were alluding to about being in the head too much, but that you have everything you need. We could be looking outside ourselves, as you said you did for healing or whatever. We look outside for the answers, but the answers are within. And that's kind of the sense I'm getting from you, is this is just, again, another opportunity to focus on within where the answers lie. Right. As a reminder to pull us away from everything exterior and where the mind is trying to trick us to go.
And yeah, and the mind has all kinds of really interesting ideas, but it is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. And when we are relating, even, and the body, it doesn't really require much. But what I've noticed, one of the things I've noticed, for example, I kept a gratitude journal for years, and every night I would think, oh, wasn't that sweet? And I'd write things down. Through this process, gratitude wells up in me. It's not my mind saying, oh, wasn't that sweet? Like there's this profound, like, oh, that's what it was talking about. That's what people like this so much. Oh, it's there. And I realized that a lot of my gratitude was, I have this picture of how I'd like things to be, and here are the things in my life that look like they're headed in that direction. Yay for them. But it was, and I think that's why I couldn't access it at a deeper level. Because now I'm at a point where I really don't care what my mind has in store for me for the next year, blah, blah, blah. But as I spend time in my body and I feel the wholeness that my body feels in a given moment, Jay Krishnamurti used to say, you want to know what the difference is between us? I'm okay with whatever's happening. that whole Byron Katie and loving what is and all that. And those are the kinds of things too, that I'll talk about during the sessions. But once that body's whole, it becomes more and more difficult for the mind to convince it that no, it's not. It needs to do all of these things before it can be whole.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
That's beautiful.
yeah, and it's a neat way to spend time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love it. And there's Grace Ann.
Okay, I've been taking it all in. I'm taking it all in. I am going to listen again. Leela, we've been chatting about this on Sunday huddles as well. But this is the irony of the huddle today. So yesterday I listened to Insight Meditation. I think I talked about that before. And I never really know what I'm going to listen to. And this one came up on the mind. And basically the essence of it is, and I can send it to anybody, it's a 10-minute, but it's thanking our mind and allowing it to be free of us. And so when you're talking today, I'm really getting kind of giddy and laughing about that whole thing, because when I heard it, it was like, you know, how when we go to the mind for reconciling emotion, reconciling decisions, when we're overthinking it, overprocessing, whatever word you want to attach to it, what kind of outcome do we hope for? What was the outcome? And when it was more, when the whole experience is more mind, body, spirit. Liz brought up spirit. We've been talking about bodyfulness. So the essence of what I got from the 10 minutes was, when there's more parts working together, the peacefulness of it changes. The level of peacefulness, the level of acceptance, and maybe even the joy on the other side of it. But while I'm listening to this, and those of you who know me from various things, raising teenagers was the most hairy experience. It was more hairy than some things that should be hairy, okay? And for me, it was like, I am telling you. And while I'm at the end, like the last 30 seconds of the meditation, for whatever reason, my cell phone rings. This is like 10:15 in the morning, and it's my twin boys calling me. And the whole time I'm listening to the meditation, I'm thinking about, oh, if I would have known this, if I could have practiced this, how those years would have had a different feel to them, right? And so it was just the irony, like, isn't that the way the universe speaks to us? I'm thinking about that, and then I haven't talked to the boys for 2 weeks. They call me in the middle of the morning, and right during the meditation. And then last night, our daughter FaceTimes us, and we, hardly ever FaceTime with her. And I think, wow, that is an affirmation. That's a Judy, sit up and take notice moment of what Leela's uncovering and sharing with us. And I just wanted to tell you that I don't know why that, well, I do know why. It's the universe speaking, but the whole timing of it, and when we talked last and your talk today, it's just, I'm completely kind of like in awe, to borrow one of Liz's favorite words.
Thank you.
But, I just kind of think about, and I was late coming on because I got an unusual call from somebody who I never has reached out to me and was in a panic situation. And I was thinking about, and I shared some things with her from the bodyfulness and the thing that I listened to yesterday on focusing so much in our head as opposed to our heart and our body and the messaging. And I thought, well, this is all,
Yeah.
the synchronicity, it can't be ignored, I guess is what I'm trying to say while I'm mumbling over my words. So thank you, Leela. And I did not catch when you said the practice sessions are. I heard something about Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Is that right? Oh, I think you're
sorry.
muted.
I was. It's Monday through Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9 a.m.
Okay.
to 10, noon to 1, and 6:30 to 7:30. I will make a blog post for
Okay.
Synergy for it today.
Okay.
And those are all Pacific time, right?
Those are all Pacific time. Yeah. I'm trying to learn how to get up earlier so that I can do a morning, and I'm just not yet.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Your body will tell you if you should.
This is the
Point.
Leela, we are performance-based.
we are. I know. Well, here's a really funny piece about this, because I have never been anywhere. Like, so my cadence with this is, I developed this, I decided to do this 3 times a day because I had 3 friends that were in utter crisis and they needed it. And of course, none of them have shown up. That's okay. Well, they've each shown up kind of once, but kind of, well, anyway, it wasn't the problem. They were the inspiration for it. And I wanted to make it like wildly available.
Yeah.
Anybody that knows me knows that it's just not a great idea to make it very time specific. It's just not my thing. And I've been 3 or 4 minutes late 3 or 4 times, but I've done, I think now 90 of these things. And so then 85 of them I've been on time. So that's how I know how much I love it. And that's why I was like, okay, I'm going to try this with this little group and just see how it goes. Cause I don't love being anywhere at a specific time, but it's working. And it's not only is it working, but I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it when people show up. I love it when nobody shows up. I love it when I love it. So it's like, ooh, this is going to be interesting because here I am putting myself in a position of that has historically not been a successful setup. But I love it so much that it's a non-issue. It's so nice.
Isn't that the coolest thing when you find something new about yourself? Like about something you love that you didn't know, and the only reason it's actually happening is because you fell into it, because there you're trying to stretch yourself, whatever it is. You're like, wow, this is like a piece of myself I didn't even know existed, and how sad it would have been if I never uncovered that. It's just, that's just so cool.
And Marianne in one of the Sunday huddles a couple weeks ago, so she's been coming, Marianne Pixie, Marianne Marianne Hooper. It's always Pixie. But anyway, she said last night, and she said, so I had this experience and it was crazy and it worked and blah, blah, blah. And so then I was like, oh, wait, let me check in with my body. And she's like, and so I sat there, and as I sat there, I realized I'm really good at this. I'm really good at this. And the more I do it, the better I'm going to be. And so it went from stress to revelation, like unfolding. She's like, I can't even believe it. It was just the best feeling. I know.
So Leela,
incredible.
Leela, would you liken it to a gut feel? Some people say I have this gut feel about it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in this world. It's in this spectrum.
A gut feel, or I have truth chills, like I got I knew it was the right thing because I had a shiver up my spine, or is that in the same?
It's in that realm. It's in that relationship, and I think that we've become so used to not listening to our body, not listening to our body, not listening to our body, that it has had to come up with like really strong things to try to get our attention from time to time.
Yeah.
But as we develop this relationship, it doesn't have to be as intense for us to notice it. But that's one of, in that Bodyfulness book, which I'm going to be using because there's some lovely things, and a lot of them are motion based and a lot of them are stillness based. And but that's one, is that just noticing when you have decisions through the course of your day, check in with your body just a little, just to see, and not trying to become psychic about what your body's saying, but just see if there are clear, like, ooh, I should go to that person, I should go do that, and I feel a lot of heaviness around it, you know, just any of the things, just noticing whether you bring it into your decision making at this early point or not. It's just starting to build that fluency, because the body, oh, here's the, like, maybe the coolest part, the body speaks the language of nature. The body knows what the birds are saying, and the body knows how to relate. And the body has been relating with the natural world since long before the prefrontal cortex showed up. And as we come to engage and develop understanding, felt experiential understanding, we start to be able to engage with the natural world at another level. Because when you think about it, love is a full body experience. When you love someone, it's not just a mental experience. And awe or wonder is a full body experience. So these key aspects of ourselves are full body experiences, but many of us who are trapped in our minds don't even, it's still just a concept, and it's a good concept or a bad concept. And that's another key element, is that I find in my body is much less judgmental than my mind is. My body has a, yes, I want to engage in that, or a, no, I don't want to engage in that. But it's not like, I don't want to engage in that because that person's blah, 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 and it's unenlightened, and like none of that. Just like, no, thanks. Which is so nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to validate its concerns. And that was one of the things. I have a sticky situation in my birth family, and there was a situation where I was going to go, and there was a person trying to broker everything, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, so much. I checked in with my body. My body was like, nope, can't do it. And it was like, oh, I can just imagine the phone call about, why can't you? And I think you should. And I'm like, you know what? I know, but my body said not to do it. And my body's not ready to do it. And so I'm not gonna. And it wasn't like, and that tell her I said, you know, there was just nothing. It was no drama at all. Can't make it. Sorry. Don't need to defend myself. Don't need to explain myself. Don't talk. That's like so new for me. It was revelatory.
A whole new level of freedom.
A whole new level of freedom. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Super.
I'm excited. I'm going to give it a try.
Wonderful. Yes, you are welcome. I will post the Zoom link on a on a blog post.
Okay.
And yeah, just and really the whole thing is to remind ourselves. Just because at the beginning we need practice. And so this is just a big, broad reminder container, so that just to get ourselves into that flow. Because once you get into that flow, you can have community, that's lovely, but it's not as necessary as it can be at the beginning.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Beautiful.
It was lovely to be with you. I'm really happy to see you. I've really missed you.
I know. I totally agree. I miss my Monday group very much.
So Leela, if people want to get in touch with you, is the best way through
my Synergy page
profile, or
I think it is.
Okay, right. So I'll put a link to that with the video as well.
Okay,
great.
Thank you so much. It's been so rich and wonderful.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Well, It's really, really great to be in this space. So thank you, Jan. Always great to see you guys.
You too.
All right.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.